Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us again today. We've got a fantastic BMC customer that we're going to be talking to about delivering better services through the digital workplace. Let me introduce Matt Carmichael from Monash. Matt, I might ask if you could just to quickly introduce yourself and explain your role at Monash University.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. So my name's Matt Carmichael. I'm one of the directors for our centralised IT division here at Monash University. So I'm part of the executive team. A large part of my role is service delivery and service management. So I wear two hats. By title, it's Director of Support Services and Engagement and Director of Shared and Campus Services. Big titles for lots of stuff. For the context of today, I deal with lots of things service delivery and service management. So I have our service governance office, which is probably what others might know as a more traditional service management office, but we do more than just ITIL, and we do lots of service delivery. So another way I describe it often to friends on a Saturday afternoon barbecue is when things blow up, my phone starts ringing. So that's my role.
Perfect, Matt. So a senior role with a remit right across the organisation. That's a fantastic perspective to bring to our audience today. So thank you very much for making the time. Also on our session is Kenny Little. Kenny, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself?
Thanks, Stuart. My role as Enterprise Account Manager for Monash University in the service management and service operations space.
So you lead the BMC team that are responsible for the work that goes on at Monash. So thanks very much, Kenny, for joining us as well. So before we start talking about delivering better services through digital workplace, we will get to that. I wanted to start with a bit about what makes Monash tick. So Matt, it's the largest university in Australia. It's got almost double the number of students of most universities that you would reference. I think there's was a large number. I'll get you to speak to it. 9,000 staff. That's a significant organisation by many standards. Could you just tell us what it's like keeping everything on track in an entity of that size?
Yeah, you're right, Stuart. We are a very large organisation, even compared to counterparts in the US, the UK, and other parts of Europe. So you're right. We have 9,000 FTE for all intensive purposes, but from a BMC and other platforms perspective, we really count the number of physical heads. So we're actually closer to about 18,000 staff, and in the vicinity of 80,000 students. We span hundreds of sites, and when I say hundreds of sites, we've got large campuses in Victoria, in Clayton, and Caulfield, but we go right through to a hospital site where we might have 2 or 3 Monash people who are clinicians, and we consider all of those our sites. And we have 10 faculties, and we could probably treat every faculty like its own business. The dean of a faculty, you could regard like a CIO. They have their own budget, they have their own staff, and so for us, we have to keep our CEOs happy. It is our job to service them in whatever shape that service might take, and 10 different business units can require 10 different service levels. So for us, keeping the 700 plus applications running and servicing, or being able to service requests and incidents in and around those 700 odd applications is a big task, and that's really where BMC comes in. It's our conduit into our teams in order to fulfill projects, fulfill day-to-day requests and incidents when they unfortunately happen.
And so in terms of the services you're delivering, just give us a sense of what's an important application out of the 700. How what is really at the core of the university? What causes a massive impact? What are the most important things that you're doing?
Yeah, so I guess there's two lenses I take on that one. One is our customer facing or our colleague facing services, things like our ERP, which we're on an SAP platform for, things like our learning management system, which we're on Moodle for, and another big one is our CRM, which we're on the Salesforce platform for. So they're three really large enterprise systems. And then we go all the way through to a local research application that's been built by a lab, but it services a lot of research data that somebody might be trying to cure cancer with. So we cover that full gamut. The other lens that I take on that is what are some of our really big internal applications that we service, that we use to service things like SAP and Moodle and Salesforce. BMC is one of those platforms, digital workplace. That facilitates a lot of our, or almost all of our inbound requests and tickets. We've also got things like Jira, Confluence in there. So depending on which lens you take, depends on where your priority stands in terms of really large applications, but we do have some really big ones.
Okay, so you've mentioned digital workplace. I'm keen to get onto that because it's obviously the focus of this. But before I do, I just wanted to get a sense of time in your role, Matt. So has the situation at the university changed over time? What is it now compared to what it was? Just give us a sense of the momentum behind what's happening at the uni.
Yeah, good question, Stuart. If I can indulge everybody for a couple of minutes. So I came into Monash 11 years ago, and my job 11 years ago was to consolidate 51 service desks onto a single tool and begin the shared services program for IT. And when I started at Monash in 2010, we were on we moved from Post-it notes and Excel spreadsheets and anything else that people could do their day job with through to the BMC platform that it was back then. But Monash is a world-class university. We're a top 100 university on just about any scale that you choose to measure. And that's required us to stay leading edge. Technology plays a big part. One of the things we say around the Monash IT team is you can never go a day without interacting with our systems or services in some way, whether it's your swipe card coming in, whether it's your login, whether it's your laptop or your mobile phone, you are engaging with IT. And because of that, we have a job to stay fresh. So our journey over the last 11 years has been implementing a best of breed product that was BMC 11 years ago. We've gone through a couple of iterations of reviewing service management maturity out there in the marketplace, and each and every time BMC has been a front runner, a leader. And so we've continued to stay on the platform, but grow with the platform. And one of the reasons is Monash needed flexibility. We have, as I've already explained, a really large workforce, and that workforce requires us to keep pace with them, and in many cases, stay in front of them. So if we have an organisation that needs to have a modern capability where, young students coming out of study and into research, they need interfaces that feel modern and they're comfortable to use, then it's our job to have services offered that can keep it fresh and modern and enjoyable to use. So that's why we've sort of stayed on the BMC platform and grown and had it grow with us. the other aspect from my perspective is cyber and cybersecurity is now a really, really important factor. The universities are a rich target area for cyber criminals of varying sorts, and it's been really important for us to ensure that our enterprise systems and our enabling services are secure, modern, safe. And one of the biggest ways for us to do that was to keep pace with BMC, move to their digital workplace, and maintain regular updates so that we can stay safe and keep our students and staff safe.
So, I mean, that's a great insight, Matt. So you've got essentially a federation of customers within your enterprise, the enterprise being the university. You've got a workforce that's both permanent and non-permanent. So there's lots of flex that's happening in your corporate back end that's required to meet the different workforces as they interact. I assume that's because many of your workforce are tutors and researchers that are more part-time than full-time, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Stuart. Yep.
And you've got a whole bunch of systems, of which there are a couple that are extremely important and a whole bunch of others that you need to keep abreast of, plus the ongoing issues around not just service level management and experience, but also maintaining a security posture in a very uncertain world as it relates to vulnerabilities and attack. So that sounds to me like a fantastic use case for all of us. In terms of just, we may not have all those elements in our particular domains, but I think this is going to be an excellent conversation for all of us to understand a little bit more about how you've launched into what we call the digital workplace initiative. So what does that actually mean in Monash's terms? What is Monash's workplace initiative? How has it manifested itself?
So we were already embarking on digitizing our workforce a number of years ago, and the pandemic that nobody really wants to mention and talk about anymore, because I think everybody's sick of talking about it, just accelerated what Monash was already doing. We have a global workforce. As you've said, we can have professional staff who are based at our campuses, and their job is administration or servicing our academic colleagues, whether it's a class tutor or a researcher. But we can also have a researcher who is based in the Congo forest, or somebody who's in a remote city somewhere. And so for us, we really needed to make sure that our footprint was as digital as it possibly could be, so that our colleagues can be serviced from wherever they are at whatever hour they're working. We have a campus in Prato. Their work day starts at our 4 p.m. So, their 8 a.m. is our 4 p.m. and yet they still consume a lot of our services. And the whole model of a 8 till 6 work day that everybody consumes your services during those hours, and then after hours is when IT come out to play and do lots of upgrades and service and systems maintenance. Doesn't really work for us anymore. We are a 24/7 shop. We don't necessarily have all teams working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but our services need to be available. And for that reason, all of those applications and services need to be flexible, need to be adaptable, and need to be available. So digital workplace has been a really good example of that. It's it's the conduit that we send all of our staff, students, researchers through to ask for our help in whatever form that help takes. And so we need to be online all the time. We need to be available all the time, and it needs to be able to be processed and land. And so the digital workplace, the BMC digital workplace capability has given us that. And that's where we've grown to. So this is really about enabling a global 24/7 workforce for us.
And so what about the experience that you talked about earlier? Has that has the way in which the system is presenting itself to your users, is it driving the sort of experience that you were looking to achieve in terms of a modernized interface, or how have you gone with that?
So I actually, I think the words I'd prefer to use there is the digital workplace has really enabled us to do that. We see our job as an enabler. So IT, and we call ourselves eSolutions internally. So internally, eSolutions is all about staying in front of what the academic or the student or the professional staff colleague needs. And the tool set that BMC has certainly provided us has enabled us to stay in front of it. So things like, let me give you an example. It was only a few years ago where a server request from an academic required a business case, followed by lots of approvals, followed by, tin being built up and dropped into a data center. We moved to a AWS capability a number of years ago. And so what we ended up doing was standing up a very straightforward request form in the BMC platform that enabled somebody to go in, request what they needed through our standards. It drops the request into our infrastructure team. They stand up an AWS enterprise and it's handed over in a matter of hours, as opposed to days or even weeks that it used to be only a few years ago. And, as our workforce gets better at understanding what they want, we might have an academic who's teaching a class or teaching an IT class to 20 students. They suddenly go, oh, we now need a new type of base server environment, virtual server environment. So we can now go into DWP, change the form that's requested with the standards that are listed there. We can do that on the fly. We can do that in a matter of a couple of hours, and then it's live. And so the academic is then enabled to go online, go to our portal, request that, drops into our infrastructure team for delivery. Like I said, only a few years ago, that took weeks. Now that can be done in hours. And that's a really big shift for us. So that's where the platform's really enabled us to deliver service to our workforce.
So 24-hour coverage, more responsive service. Have there been any surprise benefits to this endeavor that you've reflected on and thought, yeah, we didn't think that would happen, but it's good that it did?
Yes, probably not so much that we didn't think would happen, but we wanted it to happen, but we weren't ready for it to happen so quickly. When we did the shared services program 10 years ago that I referenced, IT was first cab off the ranks, followed closely by finance and HR. But finance, HR, and even our facilities team, we call them Buildings Properties Division, so BPD, they weren't ready to step into a service management capability. But over the last couple of years, they've seen what we're doing with DWP and the forms and the presentation layer and knowledge base articles and all of those sorts of things. And so in the last 12 months, we've actually had requests from our BPD division and our finance division to get on to our platform and start enabling their service management capabilities in a very formal way. People want accountability. They want audit trails. They want history reports. And, up until very recently, 12 months ago, they weren't across that, but they've seen the digital workplace. They've seen the modern capability. They've seen how it's malleable by us. And so they're asking, they've come to us and said, how do we get onto this platform? How do we turn it from a IT service management tool set into an enterprise service management tool set? So, you might, those of you that jump into Gartner or Forrester or any of those reference areas and capabilities, we'll have a look. ESM is becoming front and center, and we're no different. We're leading the way with that. We have bought on finance in a pilot model, and we're currently getting final approvals to bring our BPD division, bring our facilities division BPD into the service management platform in a fully integrated community of practice sort of body corporate model. And DWP is the tool set that's enabled us to do that. You know, we can talk about multi-tenancy, and yet we can have base layers the same. We can still maintain cybersecurity, but give them their own personal flavorings.
So was that part of the original plan, and you've come at it through using IT as a use case, or were you using IT and it's just evolved naturally in your organization? How's that happened?
It's absolutely the latter, Stuart. We went in 11 years ago with an ITSM frame set. You know, it was a IT service management. We wanted to get better at what we did, and over the last few years, particularly the last couple of years with heavy digitization, the global footprint that we've marked, those other divisions have seen what our tool set can do, and they've asked their own questions. They've come to us with requests, and we're now facilitating, and we're now talking to them about an ESM product set. So we didn't have to push it down their throats. We let the tool speak for itself. We waited for them to come to us. Now we wanted it, in secret and subtly, and it's paid off. As I said, they're now coming to us with requests to open up the platform and move these other groups onto it.
And so as part of that conversation, you're able to draw in other organizations that are doing the same thing to reassure them they're on the right track by engaging with you. There's a whole practice now around enterprise service management, isn't there? And some thought leaders like yourselves and others that are looking at it in ways of capitalizing on the systems that you've put in place around IT. So you're not alone. Was that part of the conversation you were having in the 11 years that it sort of took to align?
Yeah, look, I guess what we really wanted to do was we eventually wanted to see the broader organization get better at enabling our research and enabling our education. That's ultimately the goal here, right? Is we are a research and an educational institution. We're not professional staff. We're not an IT shop, but we do have our IT capability. And so we really needed to enable them, and that's finance want to enable them, facilities want to enable them, IT, our IT division wants to enable the research and the education. And so we started off by saying, let's get our own shop in order. Let's get our service management capability working really well. Let's get it used really well. Let's get it liked by our users, and then let's see if it organically grows and other people want to adapt it. And that has happened over the last few years. We started getting our own shop in order 10, 11 years ago. We've worked really hard at it. We've found a lot of efficiencies. And once we were comfortable, we opened it up, not deliberately. We didn't go, there was no deliberate sales exercise going on, no marketing ploy. It wasn't, come and drink the Kool-Aid. It was just get our shop in order, show people how we can get more efficient and not increase our university operational costs, because we don't want to throw more costs at our operations. We want to throw more money at education and at research. That's our job here. And so we've been able to use our tools to maintain our operating costs or even reduce them without impacting the university negatively. that's been the goal.
I want to come back to the impact that this program's had on the uni. But before I do, is there any, just looking at the workplace system itself, where are you at in terms of your maturity around that platform? Are you doing full self-service? Are you doing self-help? Do you have any of the more recent capabilities? Is chatbot active? Can you talk us through a little bit about where you're at with the system itself and what you're looking forward to doing next?
Yeah, I guess those that work with me and for me might get frustrated by some of my behaviours, but I try and say to my team, we're not bleeding edge yet. I still want us to achieve more. I still strive to push our team to take the latest and greatest and really drive it. They might say Matt's never satisfied, but I think I can fairly turn around and say we are front foot. So when through Kenny and Kenny's team at BMC, we go out and talk to other BMC users, and we're uncovering that we are up the front. We are leading the curve. We've got pretty much everything turned on, but we don't, other than chatbot. We don't have chatbot in the DWP turned on yet. We're talking about it. We're getting ready to pilot that. Probably in the new year is when we'll do that. But all of those other things. So we have self-help. We have knowledge articles. We have the back end BMC capability turned on. We have knowledge, we have asset, we have incident problem change management turned on. We are about to activate, as in days time, activate multi-tenancy in a formal way. So we have work order templates turned on. So we've really got most things that we wanted already active, and we're just, if you like, neatening the edges now and turning on some of the other things to really ramp it up.
Do you find that experience of activating capabilities within the BMC offering at your own speed to be an advantage, or have you gone to activate most of it and just seen what's got traction and what's not? How is the ability to activate things as you need them been helpful to Monash, if at all?
Yeah, we're certainly fortunate now that we're able to utilise and take advantage of DWP and the BMC platform. If I can give you an example, it was only 5 or 6 years ago that we were on a on-premise installation, and it took us potentially a year or two to take an upgrade because there was so much work and that we had to do. We had customizations in our system, but we needed flexibility. We needed capability to anticipate our workforce's needs and facilitate and implement supporting systems for that. And so we moved to a as a service capability, and that as a service capability has really enabled us to take advantage of BMC's roadmap. BMC are really good at upgrading their product, really good at keeping it fresh, really good at keeping it modern, and they put that into releases. But we were just hamstrung by that. So by us moving to as a service, we can now take those upgrades and stay fresh. And one example I'll give you is chatbot. Chatbot for us, we've made a decision, and today's October the 6th. Actually, I probably shouldn't use dates in there. I'll just talk a bit to cut that out. We want to to turn chatbot on very shortly, and we can do that in just a short matter of weeks into January. But it was only a few years ago where we weren't able to do that because we had an on-premise solution. And the only reason that it's going to happen in January is for organizational change management. It's more about prepping people for the change. It's not a systems thing. And the reason that that's important for us is, students come to us and they're telling us over the phone, which is currently one of their primary methods for contacting us, why do you make me phone you? An 18-year-old student tells us they're not using the phone a lot. They're using SMS a lot. They're using apps a lot. They're on a digital footprint. So we needed to be able to pivot really quickly and implement that for them. Now, because we're on BMC's roadmap, because we're able to take upgrades, because we're able to take new features really quickly and turn them on, we can facilitate for our 80,000 students a chatbot capability. We can turn that on for them really quickly. That's relatively fresh and new for us. And so that's an example where we've been really enabled by digital workplace. And we're going to continue to see that. We already use knowledge, we already use self-help, we already use all of the modules that we've got. But BMC's roadmap is talking about how they're going to interact together even more, and we're ready to take those. And that's the key for us, is our ability to activate a service or an option and bring it to our students and our researchers and our academics for them to utilize without them knowing they needed it until they've got it. Yeah.
So can we talk about the money, Matt, just for a bit? So you've talked about the pressures to save money. That's the same in many of the organizations today, whether you're just trying to reallocate your spend from OPEX to CAPEX, or whether you've got capital projects that have OPEX implications. How is this digital workplace endeavor, how's it perform financially? We have clients that are saying they've got return on their investments, 140, 150%. They're getting paybacks on these sorts of programs within 6 to 9 months. What's it been like from a financial perspective? How have you seen that story?
Yeah, look, let me answer that with two things. So we made an investment in the BMC platform 11 years ago, and we've had to do the right thing from our procurement side, and we've gone to market twice in the last 11 years and just had another look at the service management space. And BMC has continued to be a leader in that and good value for money. And when we take that to our strategic procurement colleagues and talk about, we want to stay on the BMC platform, we want to continue to invest, multiple multi-year commercial arrangements and partnerships with BMC. There's never been a challenge by our strategic procurement colleagues. Their job is to challenge that. Their job is to make sure that we are treating the market fairly and that sort of thing. And when we talk about the value that the product suite's bringing to us, strategic procurement aren't concerned about that. So for us, that's our biggest checkbox in terms of its value. And then if I can take the other lens, which is, I've spoken earlier about our facilities team, BPD. They've got 2 or 3 different platforms that they use to do facilities management. One of them's up for renewal, and they came to us and said, we're not sure we want to spend a few $100,000 on that. And then we're going to need to spend a couple of $100,000 in another area and a couple of $100,000 in another area, when they can potentially move onto our ESM platform under the BMC partnership that we've got. And by us working with BPD and showing them multi-tenancy and showing them the flexibility and the adaptability and also the security around the platform, the university's been able to pull out hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings in operational costs that we can redirect back into research and education, because money not being spent on a tool to run the university means that it's money spent in what the university's mandate is, which is that research and education. So that's just one example. Finance doing the same thing. You know, they're trying to find ways to be more efficient. You know, we can't, as the university's finances are challenged at the moment, and you know, I don't think that's any secret. It's all over any media outlet that you can find at the moment. The challenges that the education sector is going through. We can't continue, or we can't afford to have our operating costs grow at the same rate that they've grown year on year. We have to stabilise or even decrease our operating costs, so that the investment can go into education and research appropriately. And so if we can get more efficient, if we can replace one system with an existing partnership environment that we've got, like digital workplace, into finance, then that's fantastic. We can pull 2 other systems out of finance that they use not for accounting purposes, but for workflow purposes. Then we've saved more money, and that's what the university's asking us to do. DWP's has opened up that door, and as I said earlier, finance and facilities came to us and asked us about the platform because they saw it. They saw what it's given to IT, and away we go. Works.
Matt, I think that's a really great spot to round off this session. You've spoken already about the future aspiration you have for the platform as an enterprise service platform. We can see the vision that's behind this. It's been a fabulous session, Matt. I should declare I am actually a Monash alumni, so I have been very, very biased in the way in which I phrase these questions, but it's been a long time since I've been to uni, and it's great to see it's still got a fantastic agenda to create a terrific experience for students like myself. Really fabulous session, Matt. Want to thank you again. If there's any other comments you want to make, or please say them now, or we'll wrap up the session.
Oh, look, if I can just pass on, Stuart, I'd just say thanks to you for the opportunity to share our experiences. You know, this is realistic commentary from me. This is not a sales pitch. This is what we're seeing on the ground. You know, we've been in partnership with BMC for quite some time. We've invested. We've made the long investment deliberately, and we're starting to reap real benefits now from that longer term investment. ESM is here to stay, and BMC is enabling us to help the education sector, and for me, that's a social good. And so, you know, I just want to say thanks as well. And what I would finally say is, you know, I'm available. Reach out to your BMC partner, and if you want to connect with me or my team and have conversations about stuff we've talked about, please do. We are here to share, and we're here to help, because we love to hear other people's feedback, because we're always open.
Fabulous, yep. Matt. Thanks so much. Great session. Thanks
very much. Cheers.